Well, I started out with all these letters and licenses after my name that said I was supposed to know something about money, and I started with nothing. And we ended up with about $4 million worth of real estate by the time we were 26. And back in the 80s, I was making a couple of hundred a year, which the neighborhood I grew up in, we called that rich because of starting from nothing. And but I was stupid. I had borrowed too much money, and I spent the next 2.5 years of my life losing everything we owned. Too much debt. And I got a PhD in DUMB. We got the chance to start over with a brand new baby and a toddler and a marriage hanging on by a thread. And so kind of pierced through the academics and through the lens of faith and through the lens of common sense, found really common sense money stuff, and we started doing it ourselves. And that was 30 years ago. You know, what we figured out was that personal finance, I kept trying to fix it with the math because I'm a math nerd. And then I finally figured out it wasn't a math problem, it was a me problem. The guy in my mirror is the problem. If I can get that guy to behave, he can be skinny and rich, but he's got issues. And so I figured out he needs a clear path and basic financial planning / mixed in with a little common sense to make some gumbo. We came up with an idea that, hey, do this first, then do this, real clear, and don't deviate from it. And lots of people did it, and it worked. And we called it the baby steps because you can do anything if you just take a step at a time. Baby step 1's $1,000. Quickly save a little starter emergency fund. 2 is knock off all your debt, except your home, using the debt snowball, listing them smallest to largest, attack them in that order. 3 is an emergency fund. Go back to that 1,000, raise it up to a fully funded grandma's rainy day fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses. So now you're sitting with 15, 20,000 bucks and no debt except your house. Now you can breathe. That's a foundation. And then you start your investing into your retirement, kids' college, and pay off your house early. Typical millionaire pays off their home in about 10.2 years. And then you're set up for baby step 7, which is just build wealth and be outrageously generous. Mathematical blasphemy. It really is. For a nerd like me, it's like fingernails down a chalkboard. We're doing it wrong, you know? We're doing it wrong. But the thing is, if you go to the Y and you sweat and you drink water and you don't eat white bread and you gain weight, you will quit. And the same thing getting out of debt. You need some quick encouragement. You need to go, this might work. And then you pay off another one, you go, well, this might work. And you pay off another one, you're like, getting the neighbor in here, this might work. Hey, baby, come over here, look at this, we paid. And you start to get this thing happening, it's called hope. And you actually believe it's gonna happen. And so, and what happens is the more people get excited, the more they believe, the deeper they'll sacrifice, and the faster they get out. And so this debt snowball thing, even though it's, it's a paradox. Even though that, it works. It works. And people don't get out of debt using the other because they get stalled out. And I always just laughingly tell our audiences, if we were doing math, we wouldn't have credit card debt in the first place. This is not a math problem. Well, I just don't teach people to borrow money. The shortest path between where you are and wealth is to stay in control of your largest wealth building tool, which is your income. Now that puts some serious hurdles in place when you're going to law school or you're going to go to med school. But I talk to people who go to med school and they find a way. They get scholarships, they do fellowships, the MD PhD program. There's all kinds of ways to do it, but it's tough. It's tough. But so's paying off $250,000 freaking dollars in debt. That's tough too. So you're going to pick your tough. You just got to pick which one. Med schools are federally insured loans too, and the inherent problem, and it becomes a policy problem when you get right down to the core of it, with $1.4 trillion now in student loan debt. We're basically loaning 18-year-olds who have never had a job and want to get a degree in left-handed puppetry up to $145,000. I mean, we the people are stupid. We're really stupid that we're guaranteeing these loans. I mean, because there's no guidelines on this whatsoever. And the parents, many times, don't care, don't bother to be involved, or don't know how to lead their kid. They're like, well, they're 18, they make their own decisions. That's probably not a good idea. Maybe we put your arm around little Junior and say, we really do need to get a degree in something other than, German polka history. Let's try something else, Let's try to get something actually is marketable and that you can put some tools in your belt to earn a living so you don't live in my basement when you're 32. Let's have a plan here. I don't think it's a waste of time at all. I mean, higher education, we just completed, one of our Ramsey personalities, Chris Hogan, we just completed the largest study on millionaires ever done. We studied 10,165 of them. And the vast majority of them have a 4-year degree. They didn't use debt to get it though. That's what's odd. 68% of them have a 4-year degree, and almost none of them went to prestige schools though. Most of them went to state schools and community colleges and that kind of a thing. And but it turns out being smart, being educated is a good thing. It's just, what are you studying and what are your expectations? But it just breaks my heart when I get a young lady calling me from Atlanta last week on my show, and she's got $165,000 in student loan debt for a master's degree in sociology, and she makes $38,000 working for the state of Georgia. I mean, it's just, so where were her parents? Where we as a culture failed her to tell her that was going to work. But then you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, well, education isn't a good idea, but we're just stupid about education. That's the paradox. Well, if you're an income, if your end game is an IPO, if you're wanting to go public, you're probably dealing with the vulture capitalists at that point. You're probably venture capitalists. You're about to get yourself into a situation where somebody owns your soul, and that's going to be part of the process. If you're doing something like you guys are doing, you've got an angel investor that's setting you up and believes in your cause, and that gets you going. In my case, we started on a card table in our living room. We've got 806 employees today. We'll do about $200 million in revenue this year. We've never borrowed a dime. But it did take us 20 years. 20 years later, we're an overnight success.
Yeah, exactly.
The ability to delay pleasure. And that is a character quality. Integrity, there's a high correlation between integrity, wholeness, not just telling the truth and honesty, but this full-on integrity. You are who you are all the time. That's integrity. And not only do you tell the truth, not only do you honor your word in situations. High data point correlation between that and the ability to build wealth. This idea that you cheat your way to the top is mythology. It truly does not work out there. Think about it. If you go to the local car place and get your car worked on, he cheats you, you tell everybody you know. And you don't tell everybody you know. And if you go in there and he says, oh, it was 35 cents, I fixed it, don't worry about it. You tell everybody you know because you just found a unicorn. It's so rare. The guy just did the right thing. And you send your family, your friends, and that's how you succeed in business. You should do the right thing. It's how you succeed in life. You do the right thing. Integrity, the ability to delay pleasure, the ability to say, I'm going to give up something today. I'm going to live like no one else so that later I can live and give like no one else. That's the way we say it on the show. You can be born into a situation where you don't, you're in. I grew up in a neighborhood where people said stuff like, the little man can't get ahead. It was a victim mentality. Blue collar thing, it's like, the union will take care of you. The government will take care of you. I sure hope we can elect a president or a congressman will take care of us, because the little man just can't get ahead on his own. And is that a reality? Yeah, if you think it is. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, Henry Ford said, And so there's a reality to this. And so the belief is the real privilege. It's not the skin color and it's not the socioeconomic thing. It's the belief in the culture you come out of. I grew up in Tennessee and we're a hillbilly culture. My family, Scotch-Irish, and proud hillbillies of the best kind. And an interesting bunch. They'll fight you.